Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." When Olivia spoke those words to me, I packed my bags like the obedient mother I'd always been. 3 days later, I sat in a lawyer's office, discovering that my supposedly loving husband had played the longest game of chess in history. Olivia was about to learn that sometimes the pawn becomes the queen. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. Let me tell you how I went from homeless widow to the woman holding all the cards. 2 months ago, I was Elizabeth Hall, devoted wife of 43 years and mother to one spectacularly ungrateful daughter. When James died of a heart attack at 71, I thought my world was ending. The funeral was tasteful, as James would have wanted. Dark wood casket, simple white lilies, and a string quartet playing Mozart, his favorite. Olivia stood beside me in her black Chanel suit, receiving sympathies with perfect dignity. She'd always been her father's daughter, poised, strategic, sharp as fine crystal. When she dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief, I wondered when she'd had time to have those made. That night, I sat at the kitchen island staring at nothing. The house felt too quiet without James's deep laugh. "You should try to sleep, Mom," Olivia said, cleaning up with efficiency. Her husband Noah hovered nearby, his tall frame awkward in our kitchen. "I'm not sure I can sleep in our bedroom," I admitted. "Use the guest room," Olivia suggested. "It might be easier." I should have noticed then, the way Noah's eyes assessed the crown molding, how Olivia lingered in James's study, the careful questions about important papers. But grief makes fools of us all. Olivia swooped in during my grief like a vulture in designer clothes, cooing about how difficult this must be for me. "Mom, you can't possibly manage this big house alone," she'd say. "The stairs, the maintenance, all those memories. It's not healthy." The visits increased after the funeral. Every other day, Olivia would arrive with coffee and concerns. "Those stairs worry me. What if you fall when nobody's here?" Then came the brochures. "Look at this place." "Mom," Olivia said, spreading glossy pamphlets across the kitchen island. "Sunset Gardens, it's a retirement community just 20 minutes from us." "I'm only 67, Olivia. I'm not ready for a retirement home." "It's not a home, Mom," she corrected, the edge in her voice more pronounced. "It's a community. Think of it as downsizing with benefits." Noah joined these conversations a week later. "Elizabeth, we've been looking into your financial situation." I paused, fork halfway to my mouth. "My financial situation. With James gone, there are considerations, estate taxes, investment management, house upkeep." "James had everything arranged," I said. "He showed me the will years ago." A look passed between them, so quick I almost missed it. Dr. Ma Harrison Morgan called 3 weeks after the funeral. James's attorney for decades. He'd handled everything from our house purchase to business contracts. "Elizabeth, I've been trying to reach you," he said. "I've left several messages. Olivia's been handling most calls. I was hoping to schedule a meeting to go over James's will. As the primary beneficiary, there are decisions only you can make." Primary beneficiary. The phrase struck me as odd, given Olivia's concerns about my financial future. We scheduled a meeting, but I never made it to that appointment. The final blow came last Tuesday. Olivia arrived unannounced with Noah and 2 large suitcases. "Mom, we've made a decision," she said, setting her designer handbag down with a decisive thud. "Noah got the promotion, and we need to move into town immediately. This house is perfect for us. Move in, but this is my home." Olivia's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing cold calculation. "Actually, Mom, according to Dad's will, I inherited everything. The house, the investments, all of it. I've been letting you stay here out of kindness, but it's time for you to find your own place." The words hit me like a physical blow. My knees buckled. "Olivia, surely there's been some mistake." "No mistake," she said, voice clipped. "Dad knew I'd take better care of his legacy than you ever could. You never understood money or investments. You were just the wife. Just the wife. 43 years reduced to those 3 words. Find somewhere else to die. You're useless now." I packed my things in a daze, 43 years of marriage fitting into 2 suitcases and a small box of photos. Olivia watched from the doorway, checking her watch like I was making her late. Noah loaded my suitcases into their BMW. "Elizabeth, you'll love having your independence again," he said, not meeting my eyes. The Sunset Inn was exactly what you'd expect from a place charging $49 a night. Thin walls, thinner towels, and a carpet that had seen better decades. Olivia handed me $200 in cash like she was tipping a hotel maid. After they left, I sat on the sagging mattress processing what had just happened. In 3 hours, I'd gone from grieving widow to homeless senior citizen. But something nagged at me. James had always been meticulous about his affairs. He'd shown me the will years ago, and I was certain that's not what it had said. James had been many things traditional, sometimes stubborn, but he wasn't cruel. The man who'd surprised me with flowers every anniversary wouldn't have left me destitute. As night fell in that dingy motel room, something hardened inside me. A lifetime of accommodating others crystallized into determination. James wouldn't have done this to me, which meant Olivia was lying, and if she was lying, I needed proof. The next morning, I searched for Dr. Harrison Morgan. His office was downtown, a 20-minute bus ride that cost precious cash. The reception area was all leather chairs and fresh lilies. When the receptionist led me to Harrison's office, he rose from behind his desk, genuine warmth in his voice. "Mrs. Hall, I'm so relieved to see you. Olivia said she'd been handling the estate matters with you," I replied, watching his reaction. Confusion crossed his face. "Olivia, no, that's not—" "Mrs. Hall, I spoke with Olivia once, right after the funeral. She said you were too distraught to handle estate matters. I've been leaving messages since then. Olivia told me yesterday that according to James's will, she inherited everything. She said James left me nothing because he didn't trust me with money." Harrison's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. He reached for a thick file folder, his movements suddenly urgent. "Mrs. Hall, that's impossible. Your husband's will is very specific about your inheritance." He pulled out a document with James's neat signature at the bottom. "I, James William Hall, do hereby bequeath to my beloved wife Elizabeth Ann Hall the following our primary residence at 847 Oakwood Drive, including all furnishings and personal effects. Additionally, I leave her 70% of all financial assets, investments, and accounts totaling approximately $23 million. My head started spinning. $23 million to the house. 70% of everything. Harrison continued reading. "To my daughter, Olivia Hall Baker, I leave $10 million to be held in trust with distributions beginning on her 45th birthday, contingent upon her treatment of her mother following my death." James had known exactly what Olivia would try to do. "Dr. Morgan?" I whispered. "Olivia told me I inherited nothing. She moved into my house yesterday. She gave me $200 and suggested I find a senior facility. Mrs. Hall, what Olivia has done is called elder abuse and fraud. She's committed multiple felonies. But she had legal documents, forged most likely. Your husband updated his will 6 months before his death, specifically because he was concerned about Olivia's attitude toward money. There's more, Elizabeth," Harrison said. "The trust provision for Olivia specifically states that if she fails to treat you with respect and dignity following James's death, the entire $10 million reverts to you instead." I stared at him in shock. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying your daughter just cost herself $10 million. Her inheritance is now yours as well. You're not inheriting $23 million, Elizabeth. You're inheriting $33 million plus the house." The irony was perfect. Olivia had been so eager to claim her inheritance that she'd triggered the exact clause designed to protect me from her greed. "What do I do now?" I asked. Harrison smiled. "Now we call the police about the fraud, and then we call Olivia and inform her that she's about to receive the shock of her life." As Harrison picked up the phone, I straightened my shoulders. The pawn was about to become the queen. Harrison Morgan's office became command central for what he cheerfully called Operation Justice. Detective Maya Rodriguez arrived within the hour, a sharp-eyed woman with a specialized background in elder fraud cases. "These forgeries are quite sophisticated. Mrs. Hall," she explained. "This wasn't spur of the moment. Someone planned this carefully. You think Olivia had help?" "Almost certainly. Creating convincing legal forgeries requires specific knowledge. We'll need to investigate whether Noah was involved. First, we freeze all accounts associated with your husband's estate. Detective Rodriguez explained. That will prevent Olivia and Noah from accessing or transferring any funds. Harrison walked me through James's actual will. Your husband was extremely thorough. He included specific provisions to protect you from exactly this scenario. He pointed to a paragraph. James stipulated that if Olivia attempted to deceive you regarding the will, she would forfeit her entire inheritance. He knew, I whispered. He knew she would do this. James came to see me about 6 months before his death. He was concerned about some comments Olivia had made regarding the estate. He didn't want to hurt you. He said you always saw the best in Olivia. The swiftness of it all was dizzying. Just yesterday, I'd been sitting in a motel room wondering how I would survive on $200. Now I was worth $33 million and my daughter was facing criminal charges. What about the grandchildren? I asked suddenly. James set up separate trust funds for them that cannot be accessed by Olivia or Noah. Those mature when each child turns 25. Even in this, James had been thorough, protecting not just me, but our grandchildren from their parents' greed. My phone rang at exactly 3:47 p.m. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. Mom, where are you? There's some kind of mix-up with the bank accounts. They're saying Daddy's assets are frozen. Hello, Olivia? I'm sitting in Harrison Morgan's office. You remember him, Daddy's attorney? The one who read the real will to an empty room while you told him I was traveling? Silence. Then, Mom, I don't know what you think you've discovered, but I discovered that you're a liar and a thief, sweetheart. I also discovered that your father was much smarter than either of us realized. I was protecting you from the complexity of managing all that money. You forged legal documents, committed fraud, and threw your 67-year-old mother out of her own house because you thought I was too stupid to notice. Mom, you're confused. The grief has been overwhelming. Even caught red-handed, Olivia was trying to manipulate me. Olivia, dear, let me clarify something for you. Not only did you never inherit anything, but your actual inheritance, the $10 million your father left you, is now mine as well, thanks to a lovely clause he included about treating me with dignity and respect. That's impossible. Detective Rodriguez is sitting right here if you'd like to discuss the impossibility of fraud charges with her. Mom, please, can we meet somewhere and talk about this reasonably? Oh, we'll definitely be meeting soon at the courthouse when you're arraigned. You wouldn't dare press charges against your own daughter. Something final crystallized in my chest. Watch me. I hung up and looked at Harrison, who was beaming with approval. 20 minutes later, Noah called. I put him on speakerphone. Elizabeth, surely we can resolve this privately. Olivia made some poor decisions, but involving the police seems excessive. Noah, did you help her forge those documents? Elizabeth, you have to understand the pressure Olivia was under. She was worried about your mental state, your ability to handle large sums of money. So that's a yes. You helped my daughter commit fraud and elder abuse. It wasn't malicious. She genuinely believed she was protecting you. By throwing me out of my house and telling me to find somewhere to die, that was protection. Noah, here's what's going to happen. You're both going to be arrested. You're both going to face federal fraud charges. And I'm going to be sitting in my house watching it all unfold. The police arrested Olivia at 8:30 p.m. while she was having dinner at Le Bernard, apparently celebrating her inheritance. Noah was arrested at his office the next morning. The forensic accountant had traced the forged documents to a printing company Noah's firm used for creating financial prospectuses. I spent my first night back in my house, truly my house for the first time in 43 years. Olivia had already moved her belongings into the master bedroom. I packed everything into garbage bags and left them on the front porch. The house felt different now, not because James was gone, but because I was finally seeing it as mine. For decades, I'd maintained it as James's sanctuary. Now I realized how little of me had ever been reflected in these rooms. That was about to change. Harrison called around noon with updates. Olivia's bail is set at $50,000. Since all her accounts are frozen, she'll have to find someone else to cover it. What about Noah? $200,000. Apparently, the judge wasn't impressed with his history of financial improprieties. Harrison, I want to make some changes to the house. Olivia had contractors lined up to renovate. I'd like to proceed with some of those plans, but with my own vision. Excellent idea. It's your home now. Elizabeth, do whatever makes you happy. What made me happy was undoing every assumption Olivia had made about my inheritance. She planned to gut the kitchen and convert James's study into a wine cellar. I was going to turn the study into an art studio and use the wine cellar budget for a library. The doorbell rang at 7:00 sharp. Through the window, I could see Olivia on my front porch wearing yesterday's clothes and looking like she'd aged 5 years overnight. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Mom, please, we need to talk. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her usually perfect hair hanging limp. We talked yesterday. You told me to find somewhere to die. I found somewhere to live instead. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but I'm still your daughter. Are you? Because daughters don't typically forge legal documents to steal their mother's inheritances. I wasn't stealing. She stopped, struggling to find words that didn't sound criminal. You were what? Olivia. I was trying to protect you from making poor financial decisions. You've never managed large amounts of money. Even after being arrested for fraud, she couldn't admit the truth. Olivia, let me share something your father told me 6 months before he died. He said he was worried about your sense of entitlement, your attitude toward money, and how you treated people you considered beneath you. Her face went pale. Daddy never said that. I pulled out my phone and showed her a voice recording app. Actually, it's not a lie. Your father recorded a video message explaining his decision, to be played if you ever contested the will or treated me poorly after his death. Play it, she whispered. I touched the screen, and James's voice filled the morning air, clear and devastating. If you're hearing this, Olivia, it means my fears about your character were justified. I hoped I was wrong. I hoped that my daughter had more integrity than I suspected. But if Elizabeth is playing this recording, it means you've proven me right in the worst possible way. Olivia sank onto the porch steps as James's voice continued. I spent 43 years watching your mother sacrifice her dreams, her ambitions, her independence to take care of our family. She worked part-time jobs to help pay for your college while I built my business. By the time you hear this, you'll have discovered that treating your mother poorly has cost you everything. I hope it was worth it. When it ended, Olivia was crying. Not the pretty tears she'd used to manipulate people since childhood, but ugly, broken sobs. He hated me, she whispered. No, Olivia. He loved you enough to hope you'd prove him wrong. You chose to prove him right instead. What happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices, the fraud charges, the investigation, the public humiliation when this story hits the news. She stood up slowly, looking defeated. I know you won't believe this, but I never meant for it to go this far. I wanted the money. I wanted the security, the status. For the first time since this nightmare began, Olivia was telling the truth. I believe you, sweetheart. But wanting something doesn't justify destroying people to get it. What can I do to fix this? You can start by admitting what you did was wrong. Not misguided, not protective, not complicated. Wrong. It was wrong, she whispered. It was completely, unforgivably wrong. 3 days after Olivia's confession, Eleanor Baker showed up at my door. Noah's mother was everything I'd expected, perfectly coiffed, dripping with jewelry, radiating entitlement. Elizabeth, she said, stepping into the foyer uninvited. We need to discuss this situation rationally. Eleanor settled herself in my living room like she was granting me an audience. Noah made some poor choices, obviously, but prosecuting him seems rather vindictive. Don't you think vindictive? I remained standing. Your son helped steal my inheritance and threw me out of my own house. Eleanor waved a manicured hand dismissively. Noah was following Olivia's lead. He didn't understand the full situation. Mrs. Baker, Noah created forged legal documents. That's not following someone's lead. That's conspiracy to commit fraud. Noah's lawyer believes we can reach a settlement that benefits everyone. You get your house back. Olivia faces appropriate consequences, and Noah avoids the publicity of a trial. What kind of settlement? Noah's family is prepared to compensate you for your inconvenience. Let's say $2 million in exchange for dropping the charges against Noah. Mrs. Baker, your son participated in a scheme that nearly cost me everything I owned. You think $2 million covers that? Elizabeth, be realistic. Noah has a career, children, a reputation to maintain. Sending him to prison serves no one. It serves justice. Eleanor's polished facade cracked slightly. Justice, you're destroying multiple families over money you'd never have known how to manage anyway. There it was, the same condescending attitude that had poisoned my relationship with Olivia. Mrs. Baker, I think we're done here. Elizabeth, please reconsider. $5 million. Final offer. My answer is no. Eleanor stood, her composure restored. Very well. But you should know that Noah's legal team has found some interesting information about your husband's business practices. It would be unfortunate if that became public during the trial. After she left, I called Harrison immediately. Harrison, Eleanor Baker just visited me. She offered $5 million to drop the charges against Noah. That's quite an offer. I assume you declined. Of course, but she threatened to expose something about James's business practices. She implied he was involved in something illegal. There was a pause. Elizabeth, are you sure you want to know everything about James's business? Sometimes the past is better left alone. The Baker family is threatening to drag James's memory through the mud. I'd rather know the truth first. That evening, I began going through James's files systematically. As I dug deeper, I found things that didn't make sense. Payments to shell companies, consulting fees that seemed excessive, partnerships with firms that appeared to exist only on paper. By midnight, I discovered something that changed everything I thought I knew about my husband. The private investigator Harrison recommended was Sophia Chen, who specialized in financial crimes. Mrs. Hall, your husband was running a sophisticated money laundering operation through his consulting firm, she said, spreading documents across the desk. That's impossible. James was the most honest man I knew. I'm sorry, but the evidence is overwhelming. He was washing money for the Moretti crime family using his legitimate business as a front. How long has this been going on? At least 12 years, probably longer. Mrs. Hall, there's more. The $10 million James left Olivia, that money came directly from laundered funds. If the FBI discovers this, they'll seize everything as proceeds of criminal activity. Everything, the house, the investments, all of it could be taken away. What are my options? You could contact the FBI yourself, come forward voluntarily, and hope for leniency. You'd lose most of the money, but you might keep the house. And if I don't, Olivia and Noah's lawyers will probably leak this information strategically. You'll lose everything anyway. My phone rang. Olivia's number. Mom, we need to meet tonight. There are things you need to know about Daddy that change everything. I already know, Olivia. Silence. Then, you know what I know about the money laundering? I know about the Moretti connection. I know that everything your father left us is tainted. Mom, listen to me carefully. Noah's lawyers have been in contact with the FBI. They're willing to let us renegotiate our situation. What kind of renegotiation? Noah gets immunity in exchange for providing information about Daddy's criminal network. You get to keep $5 million in the house. The rest goes to the government. And you, the fraud charges disappear. We all walk away from this mess. It was brilliant in a sociopathic way. Olivia had turned my moral victory into her strategic advantage. Olivia, you're asking me to help you profit from your crimes by exploiting Daddy's crimes. I'm asking you to be practical. The alternative is losing everything. After hanging up, I sat in darkness, surrounded by evidence of James's double life. 43 years of marriage to a stranger. A daughter who'd inherited his talent for deception. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated who I was when my back was against the wall. I picked up the phone and dialed Sophia Chen. Sophia, how quickly can you get me a meeting with the FBI? I have a story to tell them. FBI agent Sarah Martinez sat across from me in Harrison's conference room. recording our conversation with mechanical precision. Mrs. Hall, you understand that by coming forward voluntarily, you're potentially admitting to benefiting from criminal proceeds. I understand, but I'd rather tell you the truth than let my daughter and her husband manipulate this situation. I laid out everything: James's hidden business, Olivia's fraud scheme, Noah's forgeries, and the extortion attempt. Are you afraid, Mrs. Hall? Agent Martinez, fear is no longer my primary emotion. What is anger? Pure, crystallized anger at being manipulated by people who underestimated my intelligence for decades. Mrs. Hall, would you be willing to wear a wire? 3 hours later, I was sitting in my living room with a recording device taped to my chest, waiting for Olivia and Noah to arrive for what they thought was a surrender meeting. Mom, you look better than you have in weeks, Olivia said, kissing my cheek like nothing had happened. I feel better. Clarity has that effect. Noah opened his briefcase with practiced efficiency. Elizabeth, our lawyers have structured this very favorably for you. You retain the house, $5 million in clean assets, and complete immunity from any charges related to James's activities. Clean assets. That's an interesting phrase. Mom, the important thing is that we're all protected. The past stays buried, and we all move forward. What about the $33 million James actually left me? Mom, that money is tainted. It can't be separated from Daddy's criminal activities. Noah, help me understand something. When exactly did you discover James's criminal activities? What do you mean? I mean, did you know about the money laundering when you married Olivia? Or did you discover it recently when you were planning to steal my inheritance? Noah and Olivia exchanged glances. Elizabeth, I don't think that's relevant to our current discussion. Actually, I think it's very relevant. Because if you knew about James's crimes and said nothing, that makes you an accessory after the fact. Mom, what are you getting at? I'm getting at the fact that you two have been planning this for months, possibly years. None of this was spontaneous. That's ridiculous. Is it Agent Martinez finds it quite plausible? The color drained from both their faces. Agent Martinez, Noah whispered. FBI. She's been very interested in my story about systematic elder abuse, fraud, and extortion. Noah stood up abruptly. Elizabeth, this conversation is over. Actually, Noah, I think it's just beginning. Agent Martinez and 2 other federal agents entered my living room as Olivia and Noah sat frozen in place. Olivia Hall Baker and Noah Baker, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, elder abuse, and attempted extortion of a federal witness. Olivia turned to me with an expression of absolute betrayal. Mom, how could you do this to your own family, the same way you could forge legal documents and steal my inheritance? Sweetheart, except my way is legal. As the agents handcuffed them, Noah tried one last desperate play. Elizabeth, you don't understand what you've done. There are people connected to James's business who won't appreciate federal attention. Agent Martinez paused. Mr. Baker, are you threatening a federal witness? I'm warning her about the reality of her situation. The reality is that you just added witness intimidation to your charges. After they were removed, Agent Martinez sat back down. Mrs. Hall, Noah's warning might not be entirely empty. Your husband was connected to some dangerous people. How dangerous? The Moretti crime family primarily. They've been using legitimate businesses to launder money for decades. Are you saying I'm in actual physical danger? Potentially, but there's something else you should know about your husband's operation, something that changes everything. Agent Martinez pulled out a thick file folder. Mrs. Hall, your husband wasn't just laundering money for the Moretti family. He was an FBI informant. The world tilted sideways. What, for 12 years? James Hall was providing information about their operations while appearing to facilitate their money laundering. The operation was so sensitive that even local FBI offices weren't informed. But the money was real. The accounts, the investments. The FBI allowed him to keep a percentage of the laundered funds as payment for his cooperation and to maintain his cover. Everything he left you was earned through legitimate federal cooperation. So the $33 million is legally mine. Yes, your husband died before the investigation concluded, but his cooperation over 12 years directly led to 47 arrests and the seizure of over $200 million in criminal assets. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because the investigation was ongoing, and because we weren't certain about your involvement or knowledge. Olivia and Noah didn't know any of this, I realized. No, they suspected criminal activity, but they had no idea about the federal cooperation. They were planning to blackmail you with information that would have actually exonerated your husband. The irony was perfect. Olivia had tried to steal my inheritance once through fraud, and once through blackmail based on incomplete information. Agent Martinez, what happens now? Now you get your money back. Your daughter and son-in-law face federal charges, and you get to decide what kind of life you want to build. Agent Martinez, can I ask you something? Am I a terrible person for feeling satisfaction about Olivia's arrest? Agent Martinez smiled. Mrs. Hall, in my professional opinion, you're a woman who refused to be victimized. That's not terrible. That's inspiring. 6 months later, I stood in the kitchen of my renovated house, making coffee for two. The morning sun streamed through new windows, illuminating countertops I'd chosen myself. Good morning, Elizabeth. Dr. Sarah Chen, Sophia's sister and my new financial advisor, appeared in the doorway carrying investment reports. Your portfolio is performing excellently, Sarah said. The charitable foundation is fully operational, and the scholarship fund has already selected its first recipients. The Elizabeth Hall Foundation for Elder Protection had become my primary focus, using $15 million of my inheritance. We were funding legal aid for seniors facing family financial abuse. Netflix confirmed the production deal. They want to start filming next month. And Olivia, I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She's written again. Her lawyer says she wants to apologize and ask for forgiveness. Olivia had written me 17 letters from federal prison. I'd read the first few before deciding to stop opening them. Some relationships, once broken, can't be repaired with words. Schedule a meeting with Olivia's lawyer, I said finally. Not to reconcile, but to make something clear. What kind of thing? I want Olivia to understand that her actions had consequences beyond legal punishment. I want her to know that she destroyed our relationship permanently. That seems harsh. Good. It's supposed to be harsh. Olivia made adult choices that hurt people she was supposed to love. And the grandchildren Olivia's requested supervised visits with them. My relationship with Emma and Ethan will be based on their choices when they're adults, not their mother's rehabilitation efforts. Elizabeth, can I ask you something personal? Do you ever regret how this all played out? I considered the question while signing for my delivery. 6 months ago, I'd been invisible, a widow with no money, no home, and no prospects. Today, I was a millionaire philanthropist with a foundation, a documentary deal, and a purpose that extended far beyond my own survival. Sarah, my daughter, tried to steal everything I owned and leave me homeless. My son-in-law created forged documents and threatened me with blackmail. They showed me exactly who they were when they thought I was powerless to stop them. But they're still family. No, they're still DNA. Family are the people who protect you when you're vulnerable, not the people who exploit your vulnerability for profit. Besides, I added, look what I became when I stopped allowing them to define my worth. After Sarah left, I walked through my house, really my house now, in the art studio. I uncovered my latest painting, a self-portrait of a woman standing in bright sunlight, her face turned toward the future. The woman in the painting looked nothing like the grieving widow who'd packed her life into 2 suitcases 6 months ago. This woman looked powerful, independent, unafraid. She looked like someone who'd learned that the best revenge isn't getting even, it's becoming everything your enemies never thought you could be. And if Olivia wanted to rebuild a relationship with this woman, she'd better bring a lot more than prison letters and hollow apologies. She'd better bring a complete transformation, one that matched my own. Because when I looked in the mirror now, I no longer saw just James's wife or Olivia's mother. I saw Elizabeth Hall, a woman who had discovered, in the winter of her life, that spring was still possible. The woman who had become the queen on her own chessboard. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.